this episode of Carlie's Couch, we talk about having expectations of people who are in the spotlight.
Hello, hello, hello. Happy whatever day it is, but we're assuming Monday because you're hanging out with us on the couch.
Welcome to Carlie's Couch. We have an episode today where we're going to talk about what we expect of other people and famous people kind of in particular. I think that's something that I've seen banter about here and there. So we'll think about that, especially during these crazy times when it's so much going on around the world. I really would encourage you to at least kind of keep up. I know it could be kind of depressing, like to see all the media and news when there's literally wars going on in other parts of the world. But it's definitely still good. I think it kind of reminds me to have gratitude, and also it reminds me to, just to take advantage of the days because, thankfully we don't directly have to deal with that, but in a sense it all comes back to us as well. So
yeah, it's also very necessary. I'm so excited to talk about that in this episode. But first, our question from the couch. So this week's question is, what's the worst lunch your parents ever sent you to school with? And I'm going to start because this came from a very personal place. Carla was wilding, okay? She sent me, because I went to a Christian school for the first elementary school, and so they didn't have lunch. And also, we didn't have bread for lunch, so she used to pack lunches.
You have to take your lunch.
You have to.
Okay.
And so, I guess one time funds got tight, as they do so often when you have kids. And she didn't want to send me to school with a dry sandwich. So this heifer, and I love her to death, but Lord, put ketchup on white bread with bologna. And I just threw away my entire lunch. So that's the first thing. I was like, I can't eat this. It might be my villain origin story, to be completely honest. Yeah. But then the second complaint that I have, shout out to parents, y'all doing the best that y'all can, and still, is putting bananas in lunch pails. Because then everything tastes like a banana. Yo, your Lay's, banana Lay's. Your whatever, banana something. And it's bro, how you you were trying to give me fruit, and I feel you, but you mad disrespectful because now everything tastes like bananas.
Because then even when you put the whole banana in a lunchbox, it just kind of sweats or whatever.
It
and
seeps into
everything does turn bananas. That is funny. And it's crazy because as an adult, you're like, that's not that crazy. But also as a kid too, you're just like, yuck. Because mine is similar. I would say instead of the bologna, it was the hot dog, but in regular bread. So it'd be half a hot dog cut in the regular bread, and then they would put the ketchup and mustard and stuff on it. So by the time you look at that hours later, it's just you can see through the bread. Yeah, it's just
it's
you'd be embarrassed even to take it out your lunchbox for real. And again, it feels crazy now because it's dang, now sometimes that might hit, but I don't know. As a kid, it's let me just close this and not eat today, or let me go get some chips or whatever it is.
Surviving off air.
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah.
But we got some other interesting responses. One of them says, a can of Vienna sausages, Doritos, and a juice.
Poor Eddie. He wrote that on mine too. My friend Adam said bologna with the red ring on it.
Yo, they used to hit though back in the when I was little.
But no, not with the ring on it. Still, they just send you that.
Well, I like to, and this is disgusting. But when I was little, because we used to eat bologna fried, regular, whatever. I used to get the meat off of the red piece in my mouth, which is crazy.
I did that too. They also said a Spam sandwich and a ham and cheese with one slice of each. Oh, so basically all of that right there, anything on bread that's kind of a meat, it always gonna get real weird and mushy and soggy.
Continuing the saga of sandwiches, liverwurst sandwich. I don't even know what that is.
I don't either.
With good crackling potato chips, and then this one I was dying laughing. Boiled eggs and yams. My mom used to say for energy and memory.
Yeah, that's.
And can you imagine being a kid in a cafeteria pulling out boiled eggs and yams? I know you got roasted.
That might hit now, but
I know you got roasted, my man.
I know. Also, my man's here got roasted. He said he got roasted so bad he had to start a fight. Talking about sardines and crackers. Oh, man.
And then we also have cold oatmeal in a Snickers bar.
And last but not least, he said a prayer because his mom woke up and decided the whole family was fasting that day.
Oh, my God.
Dang. Allah Akbar.
I hope.
Shoot.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's tough.
Not they made the decision for you. Sometimes it be like that. You got to say what you got to say just to make sure. Because kids also say anything. So at school, you might have been like, my mom said we can't have no lunch or we don't have any lunch. But if we fasting today, then we fasting. So sorry about that. Hopefully we can all remember these things so we also don't embarrass / even if you got to make ends meet, it's like just throw the processed chips in there. You know what I mean? Like some regular stuff. It might be some BS, but
or
I think
do a
that
dry
might be better.
sandwich and then let them like put little
What's
condiment
a dry
packets.
sandwich?
Like I'm saying, because it's better. And just put the condiments.
Let them put it on
like,
themselves.
I know y'all got ketchup packets somewhere. I know you got a little mayonnaise packet from a sandwich place. Like just put the packet in the thing.
That would have made it so much better. Low key. If the hot dog was in a bag and then I had like a real bun and then the condiments, I think that's still wild to pull out a hot dog at lunch. But that would have at least, I don't know, made a little more sense.
But maybe even if they separated the hot dog and the bread, even if it is just the white bread, which is still disrespectful.
I'd have been disrespected.
But you know, so hopefully we're not perpetuating these generational curses onto our, next generation. But also shout out to parents for trying. We appreciate y'all.
Yeah.
But also funny stories. And it's just so funny because I feel like anybody I talked to about it was like, yeah, bro, mom definitely
Everybody
big disrespected me.
Yeah. But I feel like most of the parents now, like, do be making cool lunches, so hopefully.
The one thing I will say my mom did with lunches, even the disrespectful ones, was she used to put little notes in there, which I thought was, like, the coolest thing. Like, she would draw something or say something, and I would always, like, look forward to those. So, if you are making lunches, disrespectful or not, maybe you could go on and add like a little note or something. And maybe you could even do something cute like that for your partner if you doing their lunches and stuff like that.
Yeah, I've seen people do that. And I think it's real cute up till like they get to a certain age, when they're not really trying
to not effing with you.
Trying to see none of that in they bag. But those are always things that we'll always remember. So all of those little things are cute and they last even if there's like a period of time where you're not really dealing with it.
So we appreciate y'all for answering the questions from the couch always. And hopping into our topic, Lexi, do you think that our expectations are too high for celebrities and people in the spotlight?
I think that our expectations of them being informed or making like a statement or contributing to everything, I think is high. I think it's higher for people in the spotlight than, any given person. And in my head, I'm thinking like, if you were to hop online, for example, I think that you would have a higher expectation of what a celebrity says versus like maybe just like a Twitter friend somewhere. What do you think? Do you think it's too high?
You think the general population expects more from a celebrity than just like a regular Twitter friend?
Tell me if this is different. I think they get judged more. Is that different? That means if you're judging them more, that means you have a higher expectation,
I guess so.
kind of.
I could see that. I was about to say.
For some reason, I feel like that sounds more accurate to say they get judged more for it, as opposed to like if somebody says something.
Yeah, then the expectations, like the following thing versus like a precursor. But I would say in general, I think that the general public has way too high of expectations of people in the spotlight. And I say that because if you look at any athlete, if you look at rappers and singers, like I saw an old school video of Destiny's Child back in the day. And they were like, do y'all think y'all are good role models for young women and all this? And, because they came out with Bootylicious or whatever. And they were like saying, do you think that's good for young girls? And they were like, look, we don't have kids. Like, we gonna do what we do. And I need y'all to raise, like, basically gently, I need y'all to raise y'all's own kids.
Yeah.
And so I think that there is a lot of pressure and expectation and judgment put on celebrities because they're in the spotlight. And then I think that because they have platforms that people think like all of a sudden that they should be educated and they should be, a lady and they need to be this and be that way and all that.
You have to be a role model. So I like your example because really I was mostly thinking about when people are like talking about an issue or, if you expect them to say something or how they say something online. But with you, you're speaking directly to the art, which is an even bigger thing because we do have higher expectations of people because we know that so many people are looking up to them. And that's something we can't deny between like the Barbs and, all these people who they're very serious about paying attention to these people and doing what they do. Bless you. I'm sorry. I felt it building up. And they watch every single thing that the person does and really do look up to people. Is that the notable person's fault per se, or is that something that is their responsibility just because people choose to do that? Not necessarily, but I feel like there has to be a line at some point. In the case of Destiny's Child, for example, it's like they were like 16, 17, whatever, during that time. And so it's also like, okay, well, they are also kids in their own space. They're growing up, they're adults. And in general, people are humans and, they do what they do. So I think it's interesting. And yeah, I do think there probably is kind of a line somewhere.
Yeah, and I think for me, one, going back to something that you said earlier, I think that, like, in general, there's probably more expectations on them because they have the platforms that they do and the reach that they do. But I do think there could be something said to, like, we probably should hold other people in our lives to higher standards. And I only say that because I saw a thing and it was like, one of my homies who has a daughter, but, is not with a mom. He was like, I don't support deadbeat friends. He's like, if I have friends who have kids and they don't support them, we're not friends. Because, and I'm like, yes, I think that is a good standard to hold across. And then tying that into the line is if a celebrity or a person in the spotlight, for example, like ties themselves to children. So, for example, if a football player has a camp for young kids, then yes, I think there is a certain line of something that he should uphold because now you're tying yourself to them.
Okay, so what you're saying is don't put people on pedestals, but if you are saying I'm this guy.
Yeah, then be that guy.
Yeah, I can't think of who it is right this second, but I remember there was somebody who, like, people were extra mad at them because they did something or said something, but also they had kind of put themselves out there like, okay, I'm very pro-black and I care about the issues, but then did something that was off, as opposed to they're like, oh, why y'all didn't say nothing about this person, that person, whoever. And it's because, well, they didn't act like they were this, person. So I think that's a really good point, Carlie, that don't put people in pedestals they didn't ask to be on. And I think we do that a lot. And yet, if you are going to say, hey, this is something that I care about or stand for, then you do have to pay attention to how you're portraying yourself. I guess that does still seem a little steep, though, to have, like, a kid's camp, and now it's like, okay, I got to be a perfect person. But to a degree, you're right. Like, you're saying, like, I want to see the kids be raised in a certain way, or I want to provide opportunity or whatever because I know you guys are looking at me, and because of, coming to this camp or doing whatever, you're paying attention to me. So
yeah, and it's not that they have to be a perfect person, because I think that it's great to show that people are not perfect in general. And so, like, if somebody got arrested for some stuff back in the day, whatever, now wants to have a camp to prevent people from doing that, that's great. But then you can't then get arrested for running an underground ring of the same thing you were trying to keep people from doing. I feel like politicians do that a lot when they're really like into something and then they fight out against it because they're repressing themselves. And all of that to say is just like, I think people should be held to a basic standard of like being a decent person in general. Yeah. Like that's just me personally. But then like to put, like, for example, if you're going to run a young ladies program on chastity, you're probably not going to ask Sexy Red to be your spokeswoman, right? And so it's like thinking about like what's in alignment with what you're doing. I also think, though, that parents, some of them, it seems, get so mad at like celebrities being regular people and having relationships or talking about sex or cussing or whatever. But like they're people too, and it's not fair for you to, just because you have kids who might see them, to think that everybody should act a certain way for your kids.
That's true, but also I could understand the frustration of, like, you can't hide your kids from that kind of media as well, right? If it seems like when you turn the TV on, if it's always in the middle of a sex scene, or if you turn on the radio, and, like, now they so lazy, they don't even make radio cuts. Like, remember it usut to be, like, pull over there. Like, it used to be elephant noises and dogs and roof, roof, and, like, and now it just be, like, then I went to the... And it's like just like blank, blank, blank. And it's like, dang, like even listening to the radio, whack, because you don't want to hear that version either. But I guess it's also about finding alternatives, because I remember when we were growing up, gosh, we had the whole like family collection. I don't remember the name of this collection, but it was like a whole family collection of movies. And it was like they weren't super, super hokey, but like they also... like the kids would have an adventure. There was some kind of, plot and stuff going on, but it wasn't just a lot of unnecessary stuff. And even that, like, we remember those movies and those things. Now my friends make fun of me because I'll be like, I don't know a lot of rated R movies, like, that came out in the 90s or earlier before, at least before I was, like, a teenager for sure, because it just wasn't even on. So it's not like, oh, I couldn't watch it. It just... it wasn't like my parents were watching it with me. And I think also it's weird because a lot of parents do and you know, listen to certain things or watch certain things with their kids or with their kids around. And so I wouldn't take for, I mean, I would make sure to keep in mind that they are mostly emulating, you know, what they see right around them as well. I think at least to a certain age, more than what they see or hear in other places. So there's a responsibility kind of for everybody.
Yeah, and I don't know. This was on my heart because I saw that video, and then I saw of Destiny's Child and all the pressure on them, and then I really just started thinking about how I've seen a lot of stuff about that. I remember there was people parents up in an uproar because of WAP with Cardi B and Meg, you know what I'm saying, and all that stuff that came out. So I do agree that, you know, to a certain extent, not sheltering, but like showing your kids what you want them to see and helping them be raised and stuff. But also you can't protect them forever. So what does that look like to instill values in them so that they can see those things and still choose the other thing or choose what they deem as the right thing?
I think the problem too a lot of times is that there's this bit of a double standard there because it's so much uproar about a song by these two women, and yet most men's hip hop songs are all about sex and the same type of things. And more, you know what I mean, as well. And it's not like there was parades about that. And so I think it also comes back to how we are socialized and have certain expectations of how a woman is supposed to act or being a lady, as opposed to a man, or if it's like a hip hop song by a rap artist who's a male. And so a lot of it too is just the double standard of it, right? When it's like, when people pick and choose what to be outraged about, it's kind of weird. And that's more about how you view the world and how you think things should be, as opposed to you necessarily just wanting to you're trying to protect a particular social norm or something that you think should be a social norm. Which also, I guess, as a parent, that's still your right to figure out. But to be an outrage is I don't know, that seems a little OD.
Yeah. To circle back around to what your original thoughts at the beginning. Do you think that we put too much pressure on celebrities to speak up and out and to stand up for things or be knowledgeable about them in general?
Our next episode is actually kind of about this is a little bit more too, so I'm not going to say too much about it. But I think that if you are going to say anything, that it is your responsibility to know something. So a lot of times it's if a person, and you know how people have their own Twitter style or whatever. So if a person is, you know, they always say the same thing every morning, or you know, they only put up pictures and talk about what they're doing that day, whatever. If all of a sudden they keep doing that, even though there's things going on, I'm not upset about that. But then don't hop into the discussion about anything, and then you don't say the right thing. And I think there is a right thing. So if it comes to social injustices or things going on in the world or whatever, it just don't be ignorant, because then I think that's where it's irresponsible. A big example, I think, of what you're talking about and what you're asking about, I would say, is Kanye West. When around the time when he was showing this support of Donald Trump, and then just saying things when people say okay, your vote doesn't matter, or saying none of this matters, or saying well, you should do this or do that, and it's that's not really helping people. Or he didn't even really know what he was talking about. Just kind of making up facts.
Yeah.
I mean, Donald Trump in general was just making things up literally every day. It was so crazy to think about that.
Wild.
And I think that does way more harm. And so for me, I'm that does way more harm, because there are people who are saying yeah, you're right, or you have a point, or listening to that, and what you're saying isn't correct. So I think you have a responsibility, if you're gonna say something, to at least know what you're talking about, regardless of what direction it is of what you think. Have some facts behind it.
Yeah, I'm the same. And also listen to the next episode, because we will delve more into that. But then the last question is, you had a really good one on here. So we talked about having expectations for the people and how they act and maybe lifestyle choices and what they're doing. But what about having expectations of someone's art or the work that they produce?
And by that, I was thinking about expectations you know how, so recently, everybody's oh man, the Drake album was kind of whack. You expect a certain type of music, or you expect them to say certain things, right? So this isn't about social stuff and all of that, but more so, your expectations of them as an artist. And I think that it's fair to have expectations for artists to grow, for a sports player, for an athlete to practice, to get better, to adapt, to, you know what I mean? Like, I think you have expectation for that because that's their job. Now, it could be argued like, okay, they just did, if it's an artist, like they just did what they want to do and whatever, cool. I think that's fine. But also, I don't think you can be mad that we have a particular expectation in place.
I'm so glad you thought about that because we didn't even talk about it, but part of this episode was also inspired by a lot of the feedback I saw about Drake and his album too. Like, oh, we expected him to grow and to do this and do all that, and they don't feel like he's living up to their expectations.
Talking about being mad girls didn't tell you who they dated 20 years ago, and it's like,
but,
okay.
But also then the question is to anyone, like, what is our responsibility to live up to anyone's expectations for us? Because, I mean, I feel like that same type of expectations can be put on people in our lives or even put on us by, like, other people in our lives. So it's like, what is someone's responsibility, if they have any, to live up to someone else's expectations of them or their path?
Is it contradictory to say that you don't have to live up to anybody's expectations? But I don't think it's wrong for people to have expectations of you.
I think both of those can be true at the same time.
Maybe. What was the original question again?
Like, what is our responsibility? So, like, for example, just
to live up to.
To live up to, like, you know, this fan base has been growing up with him. Like, what is, if any, expectation?
I think there is a responsibility. So when you talk about it being your job, I think there is. Just like your boss would have an expectation of how you perform at work. I think that's fair. I think it's fair for your audience and your community to have expectations from you. But also, I know, like, when it comes to, like, music and stuff, it's very easy to also find, like, another million people who love a thing, and you know what I mean? It's kind of just like what you see and who's more vocal and stuff like that. So when it comes to, like, creativity type things, you can only, you still have to take it with a grain of salt because you know what your intentions were with the art or whatever. If you had some, hopefully you had some. But yeah, if you're an athlete or you're a construction worker or whatever, like you have certain expectations to which you should be performing at. Otherwise, you're getting cut or replaced or whatever else. And I think that's valid.
Is that different from expecting them to have certain values or qualities?
Yeah, I think so. Because, this linebacker can be a trumper, and I don't know, but, like, I don't feel like I have to look into everybody's life unless I hear that this person starts to talk about something, right? And then I might be like, I don't really want to support him because he's being vocal about something in the wrong way. Yeah. And or I might make me want to be like, okay, I like how this guy's informed and he's using his platform to bring light to something. But if he's shutting up and he doing what he do and vote for who he votes for or whatever, then I don't care. Live your life,
I think that's a great place to maybe draw a line on expectations that we have for people. So some of the things we outline, like, one, if they're putting themselves in a position or making it seem like they're a type of person, like, with kids or with whatever, then there's probably some correct expectations put on them. And for us, if people are speaking out against things that, are misaligned with our values or how we live life and stuff, like, that's probably like a sign where you could probably stop following somebody or supporting their music or doing something if they're doing harm to a community or something that you care about.
Yeah, and then I think everybody has their lines because, for example, like, R. Kelly is a line for me.
Me too.
But
Chris Brown?
I mean, I don't really care about Chris Brown, but, like, I wouldn't be like, oh, I need to turn this off either. Yeah. But with R. Kelly, if that were to come on, I'd be like, I'm not listening to that. So it's, you still, everybody has their line, so it's like nothing's all the way firm like that. But I think that, again, is based off of your values in that case. How you move forward with that.
Yeah, so spend some time this week thinking about how you judge people in your life, but also celebrities, and what you might be, like, looking for them to say or disappointed in if they do or don't say. I think it's just a good check to make sure we're aligned and not putting too much pressure or too much value on those external things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and think about this week as well, just like what your expectations are of other people in the spotlight, and is that different from, just your everyday people in your life as well.
See y'all next week.
Adios.